Hello everyone and welcome to this video presentation. In this presentation we will see how we can reserve specific IP address for a specific device. Sometimes we need to have a specific IP address for one of the devices or more devices, for a PC or a printer or a scanner or any device on our network. Sometimes we need to have an IP address that does not change. So in this activity, we will set the IP address for PC1 to be that 10.0.0.58 and for PC3 to be 192.168.100.97. Of course, we could have gone to PC1 directly and set a static IP address on PC1 and do the same thing on PC3, but that's not what we want to do. We are managing that remotely. We don't have to go physically on site to change specific IP address on any device. So we can do that using the DHCP server. So on the DHCP server, so let's open our DHCP server here. I will open my DHCP manager. And here we have the two scopes, one for the LAN 1 and the second one for LAN 2. So we need to do that for each one of the scopes. So for LAN 1, because PC1 is on LAN 1, so we need to reserve this specific IP address for PC1. To do that, the first thing that we need to do, we need to have the MAC address of the network card of PC1. And to do so, there are different ways of doing it. I can open a command prompt on PC1, and if I type ipconfig/all, so it will give me for this Ethernet adapter. This is the IP address I have right now. So this is the IP address I have right now. It's coming from the DHCP server. And this is the physical address or the MAC address. So I need to take note of that because I will be using it in my configuration. So let me write that down here. So it's 08-00-27-B6-95-8F. So that's my MAC address for PC1. And as you see now, the IP address that it has is 10.0.0.32, but that's not the IP address I want to give to this computer. So on my server here, I will go under the scope LAN 1, which is for the 10.0.0 network, which is this LAN here. I need to set a reservation. So I'll go under reservation. I will right click and click on new reservation. Here I need to give the reservation name. So this is my PC1. So I'll type PC1. The IP address that I want to give to this PC1 is 10.0.0.58. The MAC address is this one here. So I'll try to copy paste it. And I'll click on add and close. So now under the reservation, I see that I have this IP address reserved for PC1. So PC1 will get this IP address, this default gateway, this preferred DNS server. So it should get all this information. So let's go back to PC1. So to change the IP address, because right now he got already an IP address previously, it was leased for 8 days. So it's gonna keep this address for 10 days. What I can do, I can just try to release or to unplug the cable. So now it's not plugged in anymore. I will plug back the cable again. And we'll see if it will get the right IP address or not. So now it got an IP address. Let's check. And we see it got the IP address that we wanted to reserve. So if I go here on my DHCP server, I go to address leases, I can see that it gave PC1 this IP address, and it's telling me that this is a reservation and it is active. It means that it can see that this PC is online right now. Okay, so that makes the reservation for PC1. Let's do the same thing for PC3. So PC3 is on the other subnet. So PC3 is on LAN 2. I need to figure out the MAC address for PC3. Again, I can go from a command prompt or PowerShell and type ipconfig/o, and I will get the MAC address here. I can get it also from the graphical interface. So if I open my network connection, so I'll open my network and sharing center. Under my Ethernet adapter, if I click on it and click on details, I should see the MAC address here also. So it is the same one that we have here. Which is the same one as this one here. So again, this one I need to copy it maybe, and I'll put it here. And now I need to reserve it through the second scope. So I'll go here under reservations. I will right click, new reservation. And right now we can see the IP address is 192.168.100.31. And let me just show you something here on the address leases here. I see PC3. It does not tell me that it is reserved. You see on PC1 here, it's telling me reservation active. On this one here, because it's just a regular DHCP lease, so it will expire at a certain time. When we will change it to reserved, it will be it will mark here as reservation. So I'll go on reservations here, right click, new reservation. So this is PC3, and the address that I want to give to PC3 is 192.168.197. The MAC address is this MAC address here. I can put a description or not. It's optional. It's not mandatory. And I'll click on add and close. So now I see that I have the reservation here for PC3. And these are the default gateway and the first DNS and the domain name that will be assigned to that computer. If I go to address leases, you see now I have two addresses. One is a reservation, and the other one, which is the actual address right now, because I did not release and renew the IP address of my machine. So my machine right now, my PC3, still has the old address that was leased, the 31. So I can click on diagnose, it will fix it, or I can disable the adapter and re-enable it, it will fix it, or I can unplug the cable and plug it back, and it will do the same thing. So I'm plugging the cable back, and this one here, let me refresh the screen. So when I refresh the screen, you see right away that the other one disappeared, and the only lease that I have right now for this scope is this IP address for PC3 and reservation. It says inactive, but it is active. So I have the, okay, see it, I did not get an IP address. So let's try to see what's happening. Click on diagnose. I just verify that my router is up and running, because if my router is not up and running, it will not work. So let's just reset the network. It will restart my computer. So my computer just ran some update, installed some update and restarted. So let's see. Okay, so let's check the IP address here. So it got the right IP address here. And if I refresh my screen here, because it still says inactive, let me refresh it. Now it says active. So this way I was able to assign specific IP address to specific device just by having the MAC address of that device. And this is very useful for printers, for some devices that sometimes you don't want to put manually a static IP address, but you need the IP address not to change, so you can assign that remotely just by going to the DHCP server. That concludes this video presentation for reserving IP addresses for specific devices.